welcome to the Untitled Chapter. Today we are continuing our study on drawing the human form, and we are working on the lips in detail, making them realistic, giving them lots of shading and highlights, and I'll walk you through all of these steps. To begin drawing a mouth, we're going to start with a center line. Now, I'm using charcoal for the sake of the video so that you can see it clearly, but you want to make sure that whatever you're using you draw very lightly so that it is erasable. So there are different mouth shapes that you can draw. A couple of examples. You could start with a curved mouth. You could curve up. You could curve down. Or you could start with a wavy line. So each of these different starting points are going to give you a different type of mouth shape. We're going to begin by starting with our center curve. We're going to find the middle of our line, however big you draw it, and you're just going to draw a small curve in the center of your line here. So try to make sure, I'm just going to use my pencil as a measuring tool. I've got one side just a little longer than the other. I can easily correct that by just adding a little bit more to the end of my line. Now we're going to put the corners of the mouth, just a small tick that's going to come up here, and again I'm going to use my pencil as a measuring tool. I'm just going to come over here so I can make sure that I have them evenly spaced on the ends, because that will also affect your mouth. Now you're going to create the curves of the corner of the mouth. So you're going to use this as your guide. Your line that you started with becomes a guide point so that you can keep these sides symmetrical. So I'm going to come arch up to my curve. I'm going to try to make this arch the same height. And then come down. So you have created the center opening to the mouth. After you've created that center of your mouth, you're going to go in and erase any of that extra line that you started with. And next we're going to add the Cupid's bow. So the Cupid's bow can be done in a couple of different ways. You can make it a U shape. You can make it a V shape. Or you can make it almost flat. It kind of depends on the look that you want to go with. I kind of prefer the V shape, so that's what I'm going to do with mine. Now the distance that you choose between this curve and your Cupid's bow will affect the thickness or the thinness of the lips. So if you start lower down, you'll have a very thin lip, and if you start higher up, you'll have bigger, fuller lips. So using this curve as my guide point, I'm just going to create a V for my Cupid's bow. Keep in mind that your Cupid's bow should not be more than 1/3 the overall size of your mouth. So if I compare my Cupid's bow here to the size of my mouth, I've not gone any bigger than that. Now I'm just going to use this to connect it to the corners. Try to make sure that your arch at the top of your lips is even, so that one side of the mouth doesn't stick up higher than the other. After you have gotten your top lip, you're going to work from the center out to do your bottom. So you'll find this bottom between here. And you're going to continue out to the edge. If you want your lip to look like you're wearing lipstick in your picture, you will go all the way out and connect to the edge. If not, you'll come out and you'll let this gradually fade out by feathering out your strokes. I want mine to look like female lips, so I'm going to go ahead and come all the way out and connect my edges. After you have the top and bottom lip, we're going to put a layer of color across the entire lip that you've just drawn. All we're trying to do is create a new value that creates a difference between the paper and the lips. So you want this to be very light. You want to hold your pencil with an overhand grip. You want to make sure you have as much of the graphite touching the paper as possible so that you can get even coverage. I'm going to use the hatching method, which means that I'm going to be going in the same direction, back and forth the whole time. And if you notice, if you keep it steady and you move from your shoulder and your elbow to do your shading, you'll get very even spacing on your shading. If you hold your pencil in a normal pencil grip and you shade, it's going to be a lot harder to get even coating of your graphite on your drawing than it would be if you hold this with your overhand grip and you keep your shading even. So let's go ahead and shade our entire surface of our lips. I'm going to stay within the lines that I've drawn because right now I'm not trying to create any kind of skin look on the outside of the lips. I'm just working on the lips themselves. After you have filled in an even color, you're going to blend this. So there are a couple of things you can do. You could use a blending tortillon, a blending stump. This is actually a homemade blending stump just by taking a piece of paper and rolling it tightly from one corner and taping it down creates a very nice blending stump. You could also use a tissue. Tissues are great for large areas, so if you just wrap it around your finger and blend. All we're doing now is we're filling in the peaks and valleys that are on your paper naturally and smoothing out our graphite. The next thing we need to think about is our light source. So depending on where your light is coming from, certain areas of your lip will have highlights and shadows. Some will be lighter and some will be darker. So naturally, wherever the light is hitting your lips on your drawing, that area is going to be lighter. And as the lips move away from the light, those areas will be darker. So I'm going to imagine that my light source is coming from the top right. So what I'm going to do is lightly draw in some areas that would be lighter naturally. I'm going to very lightly make some contour mark lines here, showing where the lip would be lighter. I'm not going to make them very dark so that as we shade in and we create our different values on our lips, these lines will naturally disappear as part of the drawing. Because my light source is coming from the top right, I'm going to have this part of the lip that sticks out going to be a little bit lighter from where the light is hitting it. And because it's on the right, I'm going to extend out just a little further to the right on this side. So there's where my light would be hitting the bottom lip. And up here, the very top edges near the Cupid's bow are going to be lighter. So we want to avoid these areas when we're adding new values so that we try to keep them light. And we will talk about cast shadows in a little later in the video. Using contour lines, we're going to begin to give the lips some shape. So we're going to just make short contour lines that start gradually curved on the ends, and as they move towards the center, they will straighten out. These lines could also double as wrinkle lines later. Right now, all we're doing is adding shape and value to our lower lip. The next thing I want to do is show that curvature of the lip where the lip curves away from the light, and so I want to add a darker value across the bottom just to give this a little more depth and shape. The next thing I want to do is to add value where the top lip meets the bottom lip. There is naturally going to be a cast shadow onto the bottom lip because the top lip is slightly blocking it from the light. So I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to give a darker value to where the top lip meets the bottom lip. You want to make sure that you don't have this cast value too far down the lip, because the further down the lip you have the cast shadow, the more you imply that the top lip is larger. So if the top lip was larger, it would block more light, therefore casting a bigger shadow. When you get ready to blend, you could use a blending stump, or if you don't have a blending stump and you want to work in this small detailed area, if you will fold your tissue until you get a very sharp point. If you keep folding, you will end up with this tip on your tissue that will make it easy for you to go in and very carefully blend without messing up what you have worked on. After you have blended all of your lines and your shading for your bottom lip, you're going to want to go in with either a kneaded eraser or an eraser that has a sharp corner. Follow the contour lines of the lip and just take away any area where you have too much color, especially in those pre-drawn out highlighted areas that you made in the beginning, to add those shine details of that light hitting the lip. And any place where you take away too much, it's very easy to just go back with a pencil and just add in a little more graphite to put your color back to the shade that you want it. To create shape on the top lip, we're going to remember to use our contour lines, and we're just going to go in and give the lip some shape. And I'm going to use this graphite pencil so that you can see easier. We don't want to go all the way to the top with the dark lines, because we're just trying to give this curvature of the lip. I'm going to go in and make a little shadow line where I want it to appear that the bottom part of the top lip is a little darker than the top. So I'm going to create a little line here that's going to blend out as I work out my shadows. And then I'm just going to come in with my 6B pencil and I'm going to start giving some more value along the edge here. Keep in mind that sometimes you will have a light reflection coming from the bottom lip. That will make it appear a little lighter on the edge here, so keep your shadows a little lighter here. And then blend. I've blended some of this out. I'm going to come back in at the top here and just add a little darker value to the edge of my lip to soften out this line that I have. Remember, anytime that you are doing this, you need to remember your contour lines so that you get your shape of your lip. I'm trying to avoid this area where I had created in the beginning where I wanted to have a highlight. And also when you blend, make sure that you also blend in the direction of the contour of the lip. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to remove some of this color that I have up here where I want this highlight to be. And I'm also going to, with my eraser, just take away a little bit of this dark Cupid's bow because I want this to be a little lighter so it looks a little more natural. And using a dirty blending stump, you could also use your pencil and then just take away what you don't need. But using your dirty blending stump, there's usually enough graphite on that you can go in and you can soften up whatever you take away to fix those edges. To soften these harsh corners over here, I'm just going to go in with my tissue and a circular motion. I'm just going to lighten up these corners and give it a little bit of a hazy look so it looks a little more natural. And on the bottom, I want to create a cast shadow on the bottom for just an added effect. So what I'm going to do, if my light source is coming from the top right, my shadow is going to be cast across the bottom left. So I'm just going to come in here with some extra lines in a hatching motion. And I'm not gonna come all the way across because my shadow is my light's coming from up here. So my shadow is going to be more to one side based on where my light is. And then I'm just going to softly blend that out. If you need a stronger line across the bottom, you can always go back in with your pencil and darken up your edges. But that is it for adding our details. If you want to go in and add some texture around the mouth to give it the look of the skin on the face, that's great. But for your realistic lips, this is all you need to do. I hope you enjoyed our lesson today on how to draw the lips. If you're interested in other parts of the face, check out some of my other videos. And until next time, you guys have a great day.